Hi guys, and welcome to Escape with Watch Reviews. My name is Steve, and today we're going to be reviewing the Watchdives Full Steel Tuna Homage. I received this watch for free from the watchdives.com website. I don't have to send the watch back, but you guys know the deal by now. That's not going to sway my review one way or the other. And as always, if you find yourself wanting to pick one of these up by the end of this review, head down to the link in the video description. That's not an affiliate link or anything like that. That just takes you right to the Watchdives site, and you can pick yourself one of these watches up. The current retail price for this watch is $139 US, and that includes express FedEx delivery, which is always nice to see. You're going to get this thing in just a few days, and that is before any taxes, sales, coupons, discounts, or anything like that. So just keep that in mind. As for the color options, this full steel version here, this is only available with a black dial. Keep in mind they do offer a regular Tuna. They offer that with a matte black dial, a blue dial, and then a kind of vintage Lume dial. As you can see, those are popped up right here on the screen. And the only real difference between that one and this one are the dials. So just keep that in mind. They have slightly different dials with different lume. So this has BGW9, the other ones have C3. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. The watch case, shroud, bracelet, and clasp are all made of stainless steel. It has a sapphire crystal, a screw down crown, a screw down case back, 300 meters of claimed water resistance, and it is powered by the Seiko NH36 automatic movement. So I've always liked the idea of a big, chunky, all steel dive watch. I don't know why, there's something about it. I just really like it. And this is a great option, I'd say. So if you are in the market for something similar to this, I think you should stick around and see if this is a good option for you. I say we get right into the full review. Before we do a quick wrist check today. Wearing the Ixandao 5303. I'll be leaving my link up in the corner here. Yeah, really still loving this watch. It is great. Now let's get the dimensions out of the way. A diameter of 47.5 millimeters, case thickness of 14.9 millimeters, 22 millimeter lug width, lug to lug of 44.7 millimeters, and you can see right here that shroud overhangs the lug, and that's how you get a shorter lug to lug distance than a diameter. So just keep that in mind. And then sized up for my 7.5 inch wrist with 3 links removed. It weighs 186 grams. So like I said, it is a big, chunky dive watch. 186 grams on the bracelet. It is heavy. It is big. It is thick. It looks awesome. It looks really, really good. I like the way that it wears. Kind of sits like a little puck on your wrist. It's very flat, but it is very comfortable. I'm going to go outside right now and throw it on my wrist for you. And here we are on my 7.5 inch wrist, and as you can see, it wears good. I mean, it's a big watch, it's a chunky watch, but it's not overly large. That short lug to lug really helps keep this thing wearable, but it is a big, chunky, kind of manly diver, I guess. And I think it looks really good. It's very comfortable. I've got no issues with it. You got lots of light play off the bracelet here. We'll talk about the bracelet a little bit later, but yeah, I think it looks pretty good overall. And here we are out in some direct sunlight, as you can see right there. It's a little tough to read it at times, but mostly it just looks like an inky black dial with white indices, so very easy to read. And yeah, I do think it looks really good though. What do you guys think? Here's the down the wrist shot there, so it just kind of sits like a puck on the wrist. Really interesting. I think it looks good though. But let's go throw it on some straps and we'll get back to this review. And here we are on a black rubber strap, just a straight 22 millimeter strap that I think looks really good on this watch. This is what I've been wearing it on mostly. It's very comfortable, keeps it in place, and I think it just looks badass, personally. And here we are trying a little bit of color here. We got a dark green leather strap. This is actually from my Phoebus, so don't mind the buckle there, but yeah, I think that actually looks pretty good. Nice thick chunky leather. Yeah, here we are on a green tropic strap that I think looks really good. Again, I mean, these tropic straps look really good on these Tuna cases for some reason. I don't know why. I've always liked them, and there's no exception. I think that looks great. And lastly, here we are on a pass-through strap. This is a very thin silicone rubber pass-through strap. I'll leave the link for this one down below. We got it off Amazon, and it's a great strap, and I think it's probably the only pass-through strap that is going to work with this case, just because of the shroud and the kind of the funny cutout underneath the case there. So yeah, just keep that in mind if you were planning on throwing this on a regular, nylon strap. I don't think it's going to work. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. All right, let's go back inside. Let's get back to this review. All right, so let's talk about the case finishing on this thing. And the case in general on this watch is very unique. You can see this outer shell here. This is called the shroud. That is a separate piece. You could remove it, take out these two screws here, take out that screw there, and the shroud will lift right off, and that'll leave you a fully polished case underneath. I'm not going to do that, but it is there in case you wanted to do it. It's really an interesting look. I like it better with the shroud. I think it definitely gives it a more tooly kind of vibe to it with the shroud on it, and I think most people leave the shroud on there. But the finishing is done really good, as you can see here. Nice consistent brushing all the way around the shroud there. Very happy with that. These top edges, which can be a little bit sharp, they have all been honed down nicely, so they're really not sharp at all. Same with these corners here. These corners that come up here, these have been sharp on a couple other Tuna watches that I've had. Those have been nicely rounded as well. So I've got no issues with the case finishing on this. And this bottom edge here, which is in contact with your wrist, that also has a really nice chamfer on it. So everything is rounded off really nicely. I'm very happy with it. It is very comfortable. Like I mentioned, I've got no problems with it. You can kind of see the hidden lugs here. You do have drilled lugs, which is nice to see. Very happy with that. And then flipping it over to the case back, you can see that fully polished case. It is a fingerprint magnet back here, so sorry about all the fingerprints, but typical screw down case back there with notches to get your case back removal tool in. You got your Watchdives logo, which is nicely done. This is all nice and smooth, no issues with that. You got a little bit of a spec sheet around the outside there. Yeah, very happy with this watch. Nice screw down crown here with the Watchdives logo. Big bulky crown, really easy to get grip on. I think it looks really good, and that being down here at the 4 o'clock kind of stays out of the way from your wrist, so it's very comfortable on wrist. I've got no problems with the case finishing on this thing. I think it's really good. All right, so let's talk about the bezel on this thing. So the bezel is a 120 click unidirectional bezel with a steel bezel insert. You kind of have circular brushing on the bezel insert itself, engraved numerals filled with black, matte black paint. I think they did a really good job with it. Getting up real close here, you can see everything is nice and crisp. Very happy with the bezel insert on this thing. You have a loomed pip at the 12 o'clock there, and that is nicely aligned to the chapter ring. And more on that in just a little bit. But the bezel itself, again, it is fully steel. It is mostly brushed, as you can see there. All these little scallops are polished, which is kind of a cool look to it. It's got plenty of grip. Like I mentioned, it is 120 clicks, so let you listen to it. It's not the most premium sounding, but it is consistent all the way through. Pretty happy with it. There's very, very little back play. I mean, just very little play in general in the bezel. Just a touch, but really not that bad. It's a nice feeling bezel. It just doesn't sound the best. I'm going to say that. A little bit of a cheap sound to it, but other than that, it is. It's really nice. I got no major complaints with the bezel on this thing. All right, let's talk about the crystal in this thing real quick. Test it for sapphire. It is positive for sapphire. So no surprise there. We expect sapphire at this price point. It is a very nice piece of crystal though. It does have some blue AR coating, as you can see there, but the blue mostly stays out of the way. I notice it mostly right on the outside edge of the crystal, not so much in the middle, as you can see here. So yeah, there's a nice big window that's showing off. So it's not really a distracting blue in my opinion. I think it's a really nice crystal. It is double domed, so no distortion really at all. I think it looks really good. Yeah, got no real complaints with the crystal. I think it's fine. Yeah, so let's talk about the dial on this thing. And the dial is really nice. It is a inky, glossy black, surrounded by a matte black chapter ring here. And I think it all looks really good. You got nice, stark white contrasting markers on the dial and the hands. The daytime lume matches perfectly. Looks really, really good. I'm going to get real close here. You can see the indices are surrounded in white paint, and then you've got the white BGW9 in the middle there. Everything looks nice and crisp and clean. You have a really simple day date cut out there at the 3 o'clock position. You can see they're using color matched date wheels, which is awesome. Really love that. It kind of blends in and hides nicely. Really happy that they chose that. Overall, I am pretty happy with the dial on this thing. Nice simple text. You get your Watchdives logo at the 12 o'clock position, automatic 300 meters, and that's it. That's all you have. No extra text, no extra fluff. I think it looks really good. You can see right about here, looking at the triangle at the 12 o'clock and the chapter ring, it is just ever so slightly off. I mean, it true to Seiko, I guess, right? They're homaging it a little bit too well. But yeah, I think otherwise it looks really good. The handset that they chose, really nice handset, fully brushed, as you can see there. I think they look really good. You can see around the pinion here, it's kind of blacked out a little bit. So yeah, it just kind of adds to it. I think it looks really good. Overall, I am very happy with it. The lume on this thing is also decent. I'm going to pop up a lume shot here. You can see it against a couple other watches in the collection. Being the dial is just a printed dial with no applied indices, it does fade a little bit quicker than the hands do, and it doesn't quite hold on with the Willard, but I think it holds its own against the Seastern. So yeah, just something to keep in mind. The lume isn't great on this thing, but it is pretty good, and it is nice ice blued BGW9, so that's nice to see. Yeah, so let's talk about the movement in this thing. And the movement is the Seiko NH36 automatic movement. So it has a day and date complication there at the 3 o'clock. It hacks, it hand winds, 40 hours of power to reserve, 21,600 beats per hour, so 6 ticks of the second hand every second. It does everything you need it to do. It's cheap, it's reliable, easy to replace, easy to find parts for. Very happy with it overall. Here's how mine has been running. And that is, I mean, that's pretty good, right? You can't really complain. 4 seconds a day slow. I'd like it to be on the fast side personally, but I really can't complain about it being that slow. I think that's very, very good. And I think the beat error is awesome. So I got no real problems with the accuracy on this thing. It is all operated by this 4 o'clock screw down crown here. Nice and big crown. Again, it is signed nicely. The screw out action is just buttery smooth. You get a nice satisfying pop out as well. So you can figure out pretty easily when it disengages from the threads. First position, hand winds nice and smooth. Really solid feeling crown. I mean, that's not moving around at all. Pulling it out to the first position, you wind it back. That changes your date. Those are all nicely centered. Wind it forward. This changes your day, and we can see we've got Chinese characters here. I'm assuming that's Chinese. And then when you get to Saturday, I'm going to get in close for you. You got nice blue text for Saturday, which is nice to see, and then Sunday is red. So really cool that they're using a pretty, I'd say a custom date wheel, and I think it looks really good. My only real complaint about it is that sometimes I can't get this thing to bite on the first turn. Other than that, I mean, when it does engage, it's nice and buttery smooth. I've got no problems with it. I've got no problems with the movement in general. I think it's really good. All right, so let's talk about the bracelet on this thing. So the bracelet on these watches are kind of always a hit and miss, right? It's a nice, big, solid bracelet, very chunky, 22 millimeters all the way through, solid links, solid end links. They're just straight cut, so obviously, they're kind of shrouded here, so you don't really see them. But yeah, it's fine. It's got no problems with the specifications, I guess. I think the brushing is done pretty good. It kind of matches and flows with the case nicely. You have polished on the ends here, push pins for adjusting. Like I said, I removed 3 for my 7.5-inch wrist. I've got no problems with that. The sizing was perfectly acceptable. Working our way down to the clasp, you kind of have your Watchdives new clasp. So really nicely done. Nice big Watchdives logo here. Brushing on the top, brushing on the sides, polished chamfer. All that is done really nice. You have 6 levels of micro adjust, so you're never going to have a problem getting a good fit on this thing. The double button pushers here, they work flawlessly. Got no issues with that. Nice tight tolerances in here, so it's not flopping around or anything like that. It opens and closes just like you would expect. It's nice and low profile. It's nice and soft. I've got no problems with the clasp. I think it's very comfortable, and I think it's a pretty good clasp overall. It's obviously not excellent. It's just a pressed outer shell, but it's a nicely done pressed outer shell. I'll give them that. It reminds me a lot of the St. Martin. They're kind of older style clasp, and I really like that clasp. The only thing I would say they could work on are these button pushers. They're a little bit thin, and so they feel a little bit harsh when you use them, but that's really a very, very, very minor complaint. As for the bracelet itself, you do have some flex in it, as you can see here. And that's kind of where my issues start to come up. You shouldn't have that much flex in a bracelet like this, in my opinion. This is a very kind of tooly watch. You want those to be pretty tight. It flows really nice. It's got some pretty cool like faceting on the links themselves. So overall, I think the look looks really good. The tolerances on that bracelet gives a little bit of jangle. And then again in the end links here. So I measured this. So I measured the gap between, and that's right at 22. And then the end link here was measured at 21.7. So there's like 0.3 millimeters of slop in here. And you can see it like that. You don't really notice it on wrist, but it is there on both sides. That just kind of helps get it, so you can get the bracelet in between the lugs. But still, I think they could tighten that up just a little bit, and maybe just tighten up the bracelet in general. And I think it would be a little bit better. It is comfortable. I'll give them that. It doesn't pull hairs or anything like that. So yeah, overall, I am pretty satisfied with the bracelet, but they could definitely do a little bit better job on it. So there you go, guys. That is the Watchdives All Steel Tuna. Again, I think it's a pretty good watch. The watch head is excellent. The bracelet is a little, it's a little iffy, but I really think this thing should live on a rubber strap. I think it looks a lot better on rubber. It's more comfortable on rubber. It's lighter weight on rubber. And I think that's where it should live. I think the bracelet is acceptable, but it's not something that I would really look forward to if I was buying the watch. I would definitely be looking to throw a rubber strap on this thing pretty quickly right out of the box. That's just me. I know some people like these big, chunky, heavy dive watches. 186 grams. That is pretty heavy. Some people like that. I'm not a big fan of that, but yeah, putting it on the rubber really helps. Otherwise, I think it's a really nice watch. They kind of nailed it. I like the look of it. I think the inky black dial with the white indices looks incredible. I'm glad they didn't go with C3. I think that would kind of ruin the look. So they nailed it. Color match date wheel. The NH movement inside is running flawlessly. Yeah, it's a good watch, guys. So if you are interested in this, again, I'll be leaving their link down in the video description. Go check them out. I think that's it for me. Thanks a lot for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. See ya.